On campus, computers are a fact of life. Good education today requires access to technology. In planning a computer lab, universal design is crucial. That means thinking about every potential visitor's abilities and disabilities.
It's important to think about universal design early in the design process, if that's possible. The Americans with Disabilities Act makes it clear that equitable access is a requirement.
Visitors to your lab may have obvious disabilities, such as blindness, hearing impairments, or mobility impairments. Or they might have disabilities that are not apparent, such as low vision or learning disabilities.
As we look at all of the things that we're going to need for a lab, we need to consider everybody that's going to be using it or everybody that's potentially going to be using it.
By planning ahead, you can make sure everyone has a positive experience in your lab. The first step is getting there. If they can't find the lab, they can't use the lab. Eliminate those external barriers. Consider these examples. Parking areas with spaces for wheelchair users. Clear paths to the building with ramps if necessary. Building entrances at least 32 inches wide with thresholds no higher than 1/2 inch. Ramps or elevators inside. Elevator controls marked in Braille and accessible from a sitting position. Clear entrances and hallways with protruding obstacles removed. Wheelchair-accessible restrooms near the lab with high visibility signs. Once they've found you, visitors should feel comfortable using the lab. Staff members may need some communication training, even when they mean well. Don't do it this way.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, could you show me where the voice output computers are?
Oh, sure. They're right over there.
Will she be needing any help? Oh, let me help you.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Okay, well, there must be something I can do.
Obviously, there are better ways to communicate. Be aware of people's disabilities in ways that are helpful, but don't treat the people as helpless. When you're working with someone who has a disability, keep in mind that you're dealing with a person first.
Well, it sounds like you have taken on quite an adventure.
Talk directly to that person and find out if assistance is desired before giving it.
Hi, may I help you find something?
I'm looking for a computer that I could use with one hand.
We have those.
You do?
Follow me.
All right,
this way.
Thank you very much.
Pay attention to what the person really needs.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, could you show me where the voice output computers are?
Yes, they're just to your left. Would you like for me to show you?
Oh, sure, thanks.
Oh.
The main thing to remember is that people with disabilities are perfectly capable of asking for help if they need it. So don't just plunge in and offer help unless it's really apparent that somebody is struggling. It's usually better to wait until they ask for assistance.
Now for the lab itself. Look at the physical details for users. Remember that people with various abilities will be using the room. For example, large print, high contrast signs for those with visual impairments. Braille labels on computers for blind users. Wide, clear aisles for wheelchair users.
We really try to focus on making wide and open pathways from our access points, particularly for students that have physical disabilities.
Hi.
Hi. Can I help you?
Yes. Do you have any computers on adjustable tables?
Yes, we do.
We try to make sure that there's a lot of clearance on desk heights so that students can get underneath things, and that there's generally kind of a large workspace.
And you can enjoy yourself and wait.
Some adjustable tables with wheelchair-accessible adjustment controls. Document holders for ease in reading printed material. Controls on computers, printers, scanners, and other technology that can be reached from a seated position. Another thing to consider is the accessibility of your lab handouts or documents. Be prepared to provide lab documents in large print and Braille. Put them in an accessible format on your website. Internet access will make those documents available to all lab users, including students who are blind and using speech output systems to read the text.
Put it under the screen, and you can change the size with the center knob.
If you provide a magnifying system, a visitor with low vision can read your printed material. A large magnifying glass is a lower cost option. Design the documents themselves in a clear and consistent format. This is especially helpful to people with learning disabilities. Finally, be sure that printed materials are within easy reach from a variety of heights, and that furniture doesn't block access. Once everything is in place, think about people actually using the computers.
Another place to begin is CNC's computer training.
Plan on having adaptive technology available, but don't worry about trying to anticipate every possible request.
People mostly are interested on the adjustable table, on our special keyboards, and on Braille production.
The main thing is to have the basics that most people are going to need. You don't have to have every little thing that's out there.
So then
Can you find the message area?
Yeah, it's right here.
It's important for staff to know about the basics and to be able to talk to the clients about what those basics are. And if a student is in need of a more involved accommodation, then those staff need to know where to go to make those additional arrangements.
Keep it simple at first, adding new technology as requested. For people with visual impairments, you might want to start with large print key labels, software to enlarge screen images, and large monitors, speech output systems, Braille conversion software, and embosser. For people with mobility impairments, you could provide a trackball, wrist and forearm rests, an adjustable table. For all users, but especially those with learning disabilities, grammar and spell checkers should be available. And finally, be sure that web pages and other electronic resources offered in your lab are designed to be accessible to people with a variety of disabilities. For example, provide text alternatives to graphic images.
Almost every unit on campus now has a website to document their services and provide electronic resources. And most of these people who are developing these websites don't have the expertise in how to make them accessible. And so in most cases, it's useful for that person to work with the Central Computing Organization staff to develop strategies for making an accessible website.
The key to all of this is simply equal access. Everyone who needs to use your lab should be able to do so comfortably. As you plan services in your computing facility, consider all of your potential users, including those with disabilities. Make sure everyone feels welcome. Ask yourself if visitors can get to the facility, access lab information and other printed materials, and access equipment and software. Make sure also that staff are trained to support people with disabilities and have a plan in place to respond to specific requests in a timely manner. With those key issues in mind, you'll be able to make your lab accessible to everyone. To get started, develop policies and procedures that assure access to lab facilities, computers, and electronic resources for people with disabilities. Consider accessibility in the procurement process. Include students with disabilities in planning and evaluating lab products and services. In key lab documents, include pictures that show lab users with diverse characteristics with respect to race, gender, age, and disability. Also in lab documents, state your commitment to universal access and include procedures for requesting disability-related accommodations. Make signs with high contrast and large print. Make all information resources available in accessible formats. Have frequently requested assistive technology on hand and add products when students with disabilities request them. Train staff on accessible products in the lab, appropriate communication, and procedures for addressing requests for accommodations. To help you in your plans, there are many resources for locating and selecting assistive technology, for designing accessible web pages, and for dealing with other lab accessibility issues. To learn more, contact DoIT. On the web, www.washington.edu/DOIT. Phone, voice or TTY, 206 685 DOIT. Address: DeWitt, University of Washington, Box 355670, Seattle, Washington 98195-5670. Director Cheryl Bergstaller. Funding for the creation and distribution of this video was provided by the National Science Foundation. Copyright 2007 and 2006, University of Washington.
The computer is a valuable tool. Once I have accessed the information, the computer makes me more independent.
When I'm using a computer, I am like any other student.
The computer is a vital tool for education and employment. There's really nothing that does the variety of tasks that the computer can do, but it's not perfect.
That's because not everyone can use the standard computer. And that's where adaptive technology comes in. With a little extra hardware or software, computers and the internet can be accessible to people with a wide range of abilities and disabilities. Adaptive technology delivers a big payoff for a relatively small investment.
The cost of adaptive technology really is quite small, particularly when you look at the impact that that can have for a person able to do their job more effectively, more efficiently.
Adaptive technology addresses the challenges imposed by specific disabilities. For example, low vision.
I use a screen enlarger, which allows me to see everything on the computer screen that a normal person would see with regular type on the computer.
I have a computer that has large screen, and I also have a voice output, which we watch on the screen. When I use my computer and using the internet, I could research for a term paper easily and faster. I could look up in the encyclopedia and have the computer read the subject on the screen for me, instead of using the encyclopedia book, which would take me a long time.
For someone who is sensitive to light, software can reverse the screen from dark on light to light on dark. Large print keytop labels may also be useful for people with visual impairments, especially if they're just learning to type. The most common adaptation for people who are blind is speech output.
The lab is well equipped with adaptive technology. Tours and demonstrations can be arranged by appointment.
Really, it helps me out a lot on the internet. I have voice output that reads everything that comes up on the screen, on the computer screen. So I'm able to access anything that I want to on the computer. And it's really helped me out a lot.
I'm kind of a computer junkie, but the aspect of computers that I really like is this whole internet bit. It opens so many doors, and then the email too.
A scanner combined with speech output allows people who are blind to read printed materials.
A tall fellow in a Batman costume comes soaring out of the winter sky.
Other adaptations include Braille displays and Braille printouts. People with speech or hearing impairments can use their computers to communicate with friends, teachers, or co-workers.
I really like using the internet because it's easier to communicate with people rather than using the telephone. I can read it instead of listening, and it's easier for me to read it than to hear.
Yeah, the internet is helpful. It allows me to communicate more easily because of my voice. It allows me to say more and express myself more easily.
How are we playing
I'm sorry. I know.
this
Okay.
again. How are we playing this again?
There are places you could land where you're on blue and you're more conspicuous.
People who can't speak can use communication devices to participate in group discussions and one-on-one interactions.
It's like our army men wearing their clothes.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
Those who can't hear require visual alternatives to sound output.
When the computer speaks, they have ways of captioning that.
Every college should have either a disabled student services office or at least a contact person to assist you.
The computer system I use uses visual output rather than sound output, which means instead of making a chime or a ring, it blinks the screen.
People with learning disabilities can use a variety of software to help with reading and with writing papers. Adaptive technology ranges from spell check and grammar check to speech input and output.
Washington is leading the world in global health and building.
Schoolwork, it helps me because when me and my mom try to work to do it, we usually fight, and so it usually ends up being a bad consequence. So if I can do it on my own, it's way better.
Washington Phase 2 schedule August 7th to 13th.
I basically just use standard word processors with grammar checker and spell checker and dictionaries on the computer. Just using the word processor alone, it reduces the amount of time that it takes to write things.
I have a voice box that it will read it to me so I understand what I'm reading.
Was Helen Keller the first deaf-blind person in the United States to be educated?
And then when I have to read books, I just scan those so they can read the books to me so I don't have to spend 2 hours reading one page or something.
The things that I found really helpful have been speech-to-text programs. You know, you talk to your computer and it writes.
At the University of Washington, a variety of hardware and software.
I've written papers at college in, a quarter of the time that it would have taken me to type them by hand. With speech to text, I just say the word and it shows up on the screen.
Period.
People with mobility impairments have a wide range of adaptive technology options. For some, flexibility in the positioning of tabletops, monitors, and keyboards is helpful.
I had Dan make a special keyboard holder to hold my keyboard in a vertical position so I could use both hands to type. And we also turned my monitor on its side.
I use a mouthpiece that I type with. I can do at least 30 words per minute when the words are going from my head to the keyboard. I like to write lots of things, and were it not for computers and word processing and spell checking and things like that, it would take me ages.
I have a trackball, which I roll around, and I use sticky keys to hold down Control and Shift. The computer helps me type reports better, and it's easier on my arm. I don't have to wear my prosthetic.
One thing that I use is a keyboard where the keys are enlarged and there's more space between, because when I hit keys on the regular keyboard, I get double letters.
For people who need to type with only one hand, left and right-handed keyboards are available. You could also use an on-screen keyboard with a head pointer or a mouth stick for hands-free computer control. Word prediction software can increase speed and accuracy.
I have an on-screen keyboard, and it also has word prediction, to where I throw in a letter, let's say I throw in a T, and 5 words that start with T will pop up. The most common ones that I use. They'll pop up and I'll click on it and it'll just print it out. I got fairly fast.
Some people may choose to bypass the keyboard by using Morse code. A sip and puff switch registers dot with a sip and dash with a puff. Special hardware and software translate Morse code into a form that computers understand.
I'm a junior this year.
Other people may choose a voice-activated system to replace the keyboard.
I use a program that helps me type. Whatever I say, it types. I talk into the microphone and it types it out on the computer screen. It makes me feel a lot more independent and don't have to rely on somebody for so much, and that I can do it myself.
The internet can be accessed from almost any location, at any time that a person wants to use it. This is a real benefit for people with health impairments.
I think that computer can help hospitalized kids. When I was in the hospital for like 1 month, I talked to other kids and I could like socialize with them, and people send me mail, greeting mails to get well.
In the past year, I lived in a hospital, and an internet connection there allowed me to communicate with teachers so I could attempt to keep up on studies.
I think the internet would be helpful for people with disabilities that have to be homeschooled or stay home a lot, because it gives them access to resources and communication between the schools and the teachers, and access to people with disabilities like themselves.
For anyone with a disability, adaptive computer technology is a vital link to success in school and in work.
It's more fun. I mean, I've had people try to type for me, and you know, it's just no fun trying to tell someone else what to write. Like, I took a poetry class and I felt weird trying to tell some friends or my age what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to put on paper.
I like using my computer because it helped me to be independent.
I virtually live on computers. On the computer, people are more on an even keel. On the electronic field, we're all equal.
For more information, contact DoIT. On the web, www.washington.edu/DOIT. Phone, voice, or TTY, area code 206-685-DOIT. Address, DoIT, University of Washington, Box 355670, Seattle, Washington, 98195-5670. Director, Cheryl Bergstaller. The content of this video is based upon work supported by the National Science Foundation under grant numbers HRD 9255803 and 9800324. Any opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed in this product do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Science Foundation. Copyright 2007 and 2000, University of Washington.